Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into Ray Dalio's principles for success. We're going to explore a really fascinating framework, specifically focusing on why 5 distinct steps act as the ultimate engine driving not just our personal growth, but the literal laws of nature. If you've ever felt stuck, or you're just wondering how highly successful people consistently navigate complex challenges without losing their minds, you are definitely in the right place.
Picture this. You're standing at a crossroads. You can choose to stay exactly where you are right now, living a safe, highly predictable, but let's be honest, kind of boring life. Or you can choose to pursue a fabulous, extraordinary life. But to get it, you have to successfully hack your way through a dark, dangerous jungle full of hidden risks. Dalio realized early on that to get the absolute most out of life, you simply have to cross that jungle. But how do you actually survive the journey?
Well, to navigate that jungle successfully, here is our roadmap for today. 1. Embrace your harsh reality. 2. Pain plus reflection equals progress. 3. The 5 steps of evolution. 4. Defeating ego and blind spots. And 5. Your personal evolutionary story.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, embrace your harsh reality. The source really advocates for becoming what it calls a hyper-realist. Now, I know when people hear that term, they instantly think it means giving up on your big, ambitious dreams, right? Actually, it's the exact opposite. A hyper-realist doesn't abandon their dreams at all. Rather, they discover that deeply understanding and accepting reality exactly as it is, with all its flaws and risks, is actually the most effective mechanism to achieve those dreams. Truth, meaning simply the way the world actually works, is the essential foundation for producing any good outcome.
Which leads us directly into Section 2. Pain plus reflection equals progress.
Look, even the most wildly successful people completely crash and burn. Back in 1982, Ray Dalio looked at the extreme global economic turbulence happening at the time, and he very publicly bet everything on an impending economic depression. And, well, he was wrong. Dead wrong. The stock market actually kicked off a massive 18-year bull market. The fallout was absolutely devastating. Dalio had to lay off his entire company, Bridgewater, leaving him as the sole employee. I mean, imagine being a high-flying finance founder and having to awkwardly ask your dad for a $4,000 loan just to pay your family's bills. It was a painfully humbling blow to the head.
But here's the kicker. From that absolute rock bottom, he didn't just quit and take a safe corporate job somewhere. Instead, he reflected deeply on his failure. He realized that it's our natural human instinct to treat pain as a stopping point. But he learned to treat pain as a cue that a huge learning opportunity is staring you right in the face. We really need to burn this ultimate formula into our memories. Pain plus reflection equals progress. It was this exact reflection that led him to the realization of how evolution actually works.
So let's unpack that in Section 3, the 5 steps of evolution.
These 5 clinical steps, they are the literal engine of evolution because they force a continuous upward loop of adaptation. Step 1, you clearly know your goals and you just run after them. Step 2, bam, you inevitably encounter painful problems standing in your way. Step 3, instead of jumping to some quick Band-Aid fix, you pause to diagnose those problems down to their root causes. You've got to distinguish the symptoms from the actual disease. Step 4, you design a plan or a workaround to eliminate those root causes. And finally, Step 5, you ruthlessly execute those designs to push yourself forward. Doing this over and over is the biological law of personal evolution.
Now, constantly running those 5 steps can feel emotionally exhausting if you treat every single problem as a brand new, unprecedented tragedy. Dalio's solution here is brilliant. Use the biologist metaphor. Stop treating your life events as unique one-offs. Instead, approach your problems the exact same way a biologist approaches an animal out in the wild. First, you identify the problem's species. You pause and think, right, I've seen this type of problem before. Once you categorize it, you can draw on established principles to deal with it objectively and clinically, completely removing all that blinding emotion from the equation.
Because, as the source text bluntly reminds us, evolution is simply a process of either adapting or dying. Executing these 5 steps isn't just a clever business trick or a weekend self-help hack. It is the literal law of nature dictating our survival. If you don't continually adapt by identifying problems, designing solutions, and executing them, your forward progress dies. It's a harsh reality, sure, but it's also a beautiful one.
All right, moving on to Section 4, defeating ego and blind spots.
The ancient philosopher Aristotle defined tragedy as a terrible outcome arising from a person's fatal flaw, a flaw that, had it just been recognized and fixed in time, would have led to a wonderful outcome instead. For us, navigating our own evolution, those fatal flaws aren't moral character defects. They are physical limitations hardwired right into our brains. We're basically fighting a two-front war against these internal forces that just ruin our decision-making. First up is the ego barrier. This is our subconscious emotional need to be right all the time. It sits in the primitive part of our brain and makes us view critical feedback not as helpful data, but as a literal personal attack. Second is the blind spot barrier. Now this one isn't emotional, it's physiological. It's the simple fact that no single person can see the complete picture of reality. Some people naturally see the big picture, while others only see the linear, granular details. We literally perceive the world differently, which means, on our own, we will always miss dangerous risks.
So how do we fix this fatal flaw? By creating what Dalio calls an idea meritocracy. You have to completely let go of the ego-driven need to have all the right answers yourself. Instead, you actively seek out the most thoughtful disagreement you can possibly find. You surround yourself with independent thinkers who can see the details that you are blind to. And then, you believability weight their opinions, meaning you give a bit more weight to the ideas of people with a proven track record. Transitioning from making decisions all alone in your own head to making them through thoughtful disagreement with others, it is literally like going from seeing the world in black and white to suddenly seeing it in brilliant, full color.
And finally, Section 5, your personal evolutionary story. As we start to master this 5-step framework alongside other great independent minds, our whole narrative naturally starts to shift. Dalio realized that absolutely everything, from the formation of galaxies to the rise of global economies, all the way down to our own nervous systems, is an interconnected machine. The universe is basically this perpetual motion machine of evolution where things coalesce, fall apart, and recycle into something new. And knowing this fundamentally changes how we view success. The true reward of crossing that dangerous jungle isn't actually getting the bait or the final goal at the end. The real reward is the awe-inspiring shared struggle of personal evolution itself. Eventually, you realize that the success of the shared mission and the well-being of the people evolving right alongside you totally supersedes your own individual success.
So you now have the blueprint. You know that pain plus reflection equals progress, and you know the 5 steps that drive the engine of nature. The universe demands that you either adapt or die. So the question is, will you stay on the safe, boring path, or are you finally ready to step into the jungle and trigger your own evolution?